Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by whom? We the people. But without further ado, let's go to the studio.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. You know, I had to run to the studio quick because I had a sneeze.
It's okay.
Anyway, how you guys doing, man?
I'm good. I'm doing all right today.
We're good, Egberto.
Well, talk to the sneezing man.
All right, Mr. Sneeze. All right, disaster capitalism is real. Elizabeth Selick LaRue Esquire takes us through climate disaster to gentrification. When fires or storms devastate neighborhoods, outside capital snaps up land as residents disproportionately low-income Black and Latino struggle to return. Researchers call this hazard gentrification, where speculative redevelopment and tightened insurance markets and updated codes combine to push locals out and wealth in. Policy can target aid to low-income households, financial code gap rebuilding, and center community voices in zoning and recovery. This is something mainstream media rarely follows up on after the cameras leave. So, I mean, it's something that happens silently and to people. So it's a bad thing. It's that disaster capitalism that we're running into.
You know what? It's so funny about it. I say funny. That's the wrong word. Sometimes I use the wrong words in these things. But when Miss Elizabeth LaRue came onto the program, and everybody should listen to that interview that I did with her, right? She actually left the country. She just couldn't take it anymore, and she moved to Mexico with her husband. And it's funny because what she does now, she patriates Americans in Mexico, and she does that. And when she's doing that, she tries to tell them as they move to Mexico, remember that you are you're a guest, and also with a lot of the gentrification that is occurring out there, that's pushing a whole lot of Mexicans outside of these communities where Americans and other foreigners are sort of patrioting. She says you have to do it the right way. In other words, you don't want a new colonization. What you want is to have respect for where you're going. Just like we expect. When I came to this country, I had respect for this country. I learned the laws. I learned the Constitution. That we should do the same thing if we go out to another country to live. I mean, it was a good interview that folks should check out if they get a chance to. But anyway, Jack and Mayana, all's good?
Yeah, all's great. And I definitely agree with you. That's something you have to think about when you go into another country.
Yeah, I mean, we expected here. In fact, we sort of demanded folks would have a tendency to say, but what you say about those communities that want to speak Japanese or Korean or Spanish or whatever, you'd really take a look at it and see, hey, actually, folks that come over here, they actually do a whole lot more here when it comes to learning the culture here than when we go over to other lands. I mean, generally, if you
I came from St. Lucia, and when we came over, pretty much every male in my family went to the armed services.
Yeah,
they felt like that was their duty. Yeah, that was part of what we do.
And these are things, Mayana, we have to let folks know because. Yeah, we have to let people know that, right? Those of us that are naturalized American citizens or immigrants or whatever, because we have such a toxic president that lies to the American population that a lot of things you can't blame on the average everyday American. You have to blame on a media that doesn't inform them. They don't know that a lot of Panamanians fought in the Korean War, died in the Korean War. They don't talk about, America going into the respect that we give America as foreigners, naturalized citizens when we come over here. A lot of that isn't given back when Americans go into Jamaica or Panama or whatever. They own the place, right? They come out and it is, I don't speak Spanish. Okay.
Right.
It is amazing.
And it's like, and people who come up here do everything they can to make sure that they can speak English the best they can and try to keep doing that.
Yeah. But anyway,
like they shouldn't
today,
take away their identity.
You're absolutely right. And nobody has to lose it. That's why you have Italian restaurants. I love Italian restaurants. Our brother is Italian. I love French restaurants. I love Chinese restaurants. There's beauty in having all these different cultures in one place. That's why Houston is such a great city, because you can go today. Do you feel Korean? I kind of feel Korean today. I'm going to get me some very hot Korean wings. I feel Thai today. I'm going to go get me some Thai food. Hey, I feel Irish today. I'm going to go get me some Irish food. This is a great place. Anyway, we have our brother, El Señor Neil Aquino, my favorite Italian in the house. Good morning, Neil. How you doing?
Well, let me tell you, I'm doing all right. Good morning. Good morning, local, global audience. And let me just build on two of those things. Let me build on what the studio said for a minute. The joining the service, people whom have come here and joined the service, or Panamanians in the Korean War. My father was a Korean War medic. He paid for that all his life, and me and my mom paid for it a little bit too. And he wasn't macho or anything. He didn't have any bravado attached to it, and he was proud that he had brought some measure of democracy to South Korea in time. And when I see Trump glorifying the North Korean leader right in the presence of the South Korean, and there's problems with South Korea, but it's painful. I'm glad my father isn't here to see that. And for folks who have come from another country and joined the service to give something back, or my father's service, the betrayal is crazy. The level of betrayal, and you think that we fought the Confederacy, the Nazis, the North Koreans, and we are giving all that back. And then on the theme of disaster capitalism, that made me remember Hurricane Ike. And I Googled just now Ike, and there's a advocacy group called Texas Housers here in town, and they do some good work. And here's it from 2011. In an unusual letter to Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski, who was on the right side of the question, 3 HUD leaders told Galveston to move forward to rebuild public housing destroyed by Hurricane Ike or face the loss of federal funding. So that was under the Obama presidency, but that was and I can't give you the blow by blow, but that was a huge issue after Hurricane Ike. And Mayor Jaworski was on the right side of that. In fact, he lost his seat as mayor of Galveston. A lot of folks did not want to rebuild that public housing in Galveston. Disaster capitalism. And we were talking about, before we went on the air, the 20th anniversary of Katrina, another story with a local angle, because so many of the good folks came over here to Houston. And, many of the stories, they eliminated the public school system. I don't believe it's all charters, I believe, in New Orleans today. And folks were displaced. And I saw that Trump was talking about sending the troops to New Orleans next with their Governor Landry, who would be for it. And, they want that land. They want that land. And we see the District of Columbia, where there's 14 bills now. This came out yesterday to get rid of home rule, to lessen home rule in the District of Columbia. And one thing they really want control of is the juvenile justice system. So these young people, it'd be a federal crime, right? We have that say, hey, don't make a federal crime of it. So these young people will be in a federal system, and they want that land. They want to depopulate those people. colonization. And we talked a little bit this morning about colonization before we went on. And they want that land in the District of Columbia and in New Orleans, just like they want it in Gaza for mass displacements. And the local angle, because we try to keep it local here in Houston, is there have been waves of gentrification after our endless floods and storms. Every time we have something, it helps move people out. And it's disaster capitalism, and it's some disaster democracy we got.
Absolutely. Let me just tell you something, Neil. Local angle is national angle these days. That's just the reality of it. And by the way, our audience, the national audience, they know Neil Aquino well now, because you've covered some darn good subjects, brother. So you have folks listening to you from just about all over. I'm looking at our chat right now. You have people listening to you from just about all over, brother. But let me just say this. Lately, I've been a bit more. Beforehand, let me just say welcome aboard, John Cotter, listening from Dayton, Ohio. How you doing, John? Great to have you here, my brother.
Great American,
we have
John Cotter.
Great American, president of the Humble Area Democrats, and a great activist out here in the area. Thank you for being here, John. We also have Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Joe from Los Angeles, California. We have Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Of course, we have Jane B. in North Carolina. Tim Fletcher, Port Sitter, LA. Port Sitter? I don't think I've seen the name before. I love that name, Port Sitter. I'm sitting on my porch. We also have LAC, Steve Berger, Maggie Neal, John A. Davis, FemK. Remember, the first few dozen on Substack, I don't see because of when, there's a delay in the way they send things over. But also, I've been lately, Neil, and I'm going to get onto your subjects in a minute, but I just want to tell our audience this. Lately, I've been getting a few people upset because I've been talking about the ills of the type of capitalism that we have today, and I pretty much said that capitalism is working as designed, because a lot of folks came into the chat later on and said things like, what we need is regulated capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it has to go beyond that now, because again, the design of capitalism is to do exactly what it's doing. And ultimately, if you study derivatives, right, you figure out that where do things converge? The convergence of capitalism is monopoly. And that is, you just have to listen to Alan Greenspan when he says something like, the sole purpose of capitalism is not for social issues, etc. There are two things they defined it as, and that is, one, the efficient allocation of resources, which is a fallacy. Just look at healthcare and you'll see that it doesn't allocate resources efficiently. But secondly, they talk about it being, what is the word? The design of it is for the maximization of profits for the shareholder, and which is done by giving big bonuses again to your executives. By design, what that means is you constantly try to make your profits more, which means ultimately you take, if you have a competitor, you've got to annihilate the competitor so that you can continue that growth. The design of the system is eating yourself. That is, and it just takes a while. We are in end stages right now, and democratic leaders are trying to tell Democrats, don't speak about this stuff, because it's, we have been indoctrinated that this economic system is the way it should go, even though we have economic systems around the world that aren't communism, that actually fairly are dealing with this problem. And what I think, and Mayana was talking about this a few minutes ago, when we spoke about Mamdani dancing, the reason this guy is doing so well is because he has defied the tenets that says you can't help people, because that's what capitalism says, right? You can't help people. You just have to maximize capital. You can't help people. It's not within the design. So what does he want to do? He wants to open a grocery store, since capitalism would not build a grocery store in these areas. He says, for the things that the private sector refuses to do, we're going to do. When Biden says, I'm going to build internet throughout the rural areas, they call that socialism. You know what? The rural areas still don't have their high-speed internet just because, Republicans have given it a label. Think about it, folks. Think about things of that issue. But anyhow, I just needed to say that. So for those of you who are telling me, oh, we are with you, but be careful the way you say it because you're going to hurt us. No, I say let's educate our brothers and sisters so that the miseducation for the Powell memo that had existed since the Powell memo came in the 70s, but the lies that we've been told from the inception, from slavery to genocide to all these things that we have done, we don't call it under the right name, but that we've done. Let's educate folks. It's a very few amount of people controlling this system that are hurting absolutely all of us. Welcome aboard, LBW, our teacher in the house. He says, if you don't see me around 6 o'clock or a little after 6 in the chat, I'm late for school. I guess you're not late for school today, LBW. All right, come on in, Brother Neil. Talk to me.
Right. So one thing I want to highlight briefly before we get too deep. Houston Democracy Project, HoustonDemocracyProject.com, and I've been posting a weekly grassroots Houston area schedule. So I try to focus on groups that are outside of elected officials, outside of the more well-known nonprofits, just grassroots action. So if you go to HoustonDemocracyProject.com, go to the blog. It's the most recent post, and there are actions all over. I've got things in Kingwood, Conroe, Katy, Fort Bend. There are great people doing great work. We referenced John Carter earlier, president of the Humble Area Dems, and these are Democratic Party spaces and non-Democratic Party spaces. And what bounds them together is so much of the work opposing what's going on is being done by volunteers, average people, and all over the area. That's really one point, because you will hear that someone will tell me they live somewhere, wherever it is, and the person 5 doors down is afraid to put up a bumper sticker or put up a sign. They don't know how many like-minded people there are. I've been talking the last few days to a man in Clear Lake who's been doing some organizing. So wherever you are, locally in the Houston region, or for all of the national participants we have here today, find that person near you and organize something yourself. All of this stuff is self-starting. The First Amendment is your permit.
Okay, we lost Neil for a second here. I think his system went down. He said, your First Amendment is your permit, and then we lost him. He's going to be back in a minute. But let me just say this. Welcome aboard, Alisarian Dreams. He's back. Welcome aboard, Alisarian Dreams from, I always forget the name of that area. I don't know why. But anyway, near the belt. Anyway, thank you for being here, Alisarian Dreams. Continue, Neil.
So I was, the First Amendment's your permit. The next action is when you organize it. You don't have to feel self-confident. I stress that all the time. You do not have to feel self-confident. Just proceed. Voting is not going to be enough. We're going to have to organize. And you saw that in South Korea, to go back to what we talked about at the beginning, when they declared martial law a few months ago, at the end of last year. And people came and fought that. So HoustonDemocracyProject.com. There's a grassroots schedule. Please check it out and organize something yourself.
Summerwood. Thank you, Alisarian Dreams. Summerwood. Let me just say this, Neil, because I'm glad you brought up South Korea. South Korea had a strongman attempt to do the same thing Donald Trump is doing, declaring martial law, etc. And the people came out in droves. They kicked him out of office, and they elected a new president. So, I mean, the people have power. All of you that are listening have power. What Trump and his sycophants want to do is put you. They are paper tigers. First of all, remember that they are paper tigers. But paper tigers are lethal if you don't use the scissors on them. Okay. So what you all who want democracy, who want to keep democracy, do remember any declaration of martial law or whatever, because it would be illegal. In other words, what he's trying to do is use the technicalities to take over. Don't allow it to happen. This is our country. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever, it is our country. And one never allows a thug, a autocrat, to make us different from what we are. Yesterday, we spoke a lot about what we're losing in America. If we stand up, it would be the beginning of re-earning our international reputation. Welcome aboard as well, Eddie Nart. Thank you for being here. And in the chat, I want to welcome Adam W. and Dale. Continue, my brother.
Great. And you see in Brazil, they've stood up to Bolsonaro. They've stood up in a way that Biden should have dealt with January 6th. I attended a Labor Day, the 50501 folks and a coalition. The Houston Democracy Project was part of that coalition, though I didn't do anything to organize it. Put on a Labor Day march, a Labor Day rally, then march from the water wall proximate to the Galleria down Westheimer to Lamar High School. So it was about a 2.5 mile walk. It was hot as could be. And what I want to highlight out of that, the crowd was, 300. It was hot, and folks were concerned about how they would get back from Lamar to there were some inhibitions on it. But boy, the police presence, okay? The police presence, it was like the James Bond movies with Q. You go to the weapons laboratory, and he's got the Aston Martin with the ejection seat, and or the Spy Who Loved Me, the car could go underwater. Okay, HPD got one of everything. So they had a helicopter, ATVs, a fancy dune buggy in essence, unmarked cars, the jail van. They had listening devices. I didn't know what it all was, and all at Labor Day pay rates. Okay, so the next time they tell you they can't mow the lawn at the park, or they can't fix the pothole or the crack in the sidewalk, they can rustle up. Now, in HPD's, they didn't know what kind of crowd they were going to get, and I want to be clear: they weren't stopping the rally. You don't have to overtell the story to get it right. But they have enormous police resources, and what they were protecting in good respect is the Galleria, and they wanted to make sure that you didn't go on 610. 610, you get off 610, you're right at the Galleria. They had their horses. They had a whole Kentucky Derby field of horses on the feeder road to 610, and they want to make sure you can get on there. And people will talk about, there's been a little bit of debate about HPD because people will go to rallies. They'll say, well, we're glad they're there. I had a problem and they helped me. And I want to just clarify, it's brief, the role of HPD, because it's a frequent topic of discussion after large events. Are they there to stop the rally or to cause some trouble? No, they're not at the moment. No. Will they help you? Are they there to protect you? Sometimes. If you get a permit, it will inhibit your freedom of action, and they'll put all sorts of costs on you and ask you all sorts of invasive questions. Remember, the First Amendment is your permit. And then, bottom line, they're there to protect property, the people who pay them, and they will maintain order, even if the people who are defining order are taking your freedom. And I wanted to say that there's a lot of debate. You don't have to be you don't have to antagonize them. You don't have to be reflexively saying every officer is bad, but it's just as unsafe to trust them to guarantee your rights. And I think as we go deeper into this, it's important that we normalize interacting with police and that we have an accurate perception of what they're doing.
Let me just say this because it brings to mind when you talk about the policing that you had with your crowd. Here in Kingwood, we had the worker over billionaire march, or not march, but rally. And we had 3 marked cars, and I saw, I think, 2 unmarked cars.
Okay.
So
sure.
our 75 people or so had 4 cars here, at least 4 officers, if I counted correctly. Right. So you're right about that. Somehow they can find the money for cops, but they can't find the money to mow the lawns in the parks.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They were very nice, of course.
Sure.
They treated the people very nice. Then again, our crowd is sort of biased to where. But I tell you what was interesting. I saw a TikTok that really hit me hard when I went to pick up my my pills at HEB. Standing in line, and there was this small crowd. It was the anti-ICE crowd, but they were there, and the cops were there as well. And this white guy, an older white guy, comes in and attacks the crowd. They're in their spot, and he comes out and he attacks the crowd, and he goes ahead and finger in these crowds' face. They're mostly Latino folks, right?
Right.
And what happened then is the cops they go in between the guy and the crowd and the protesters. And then they stayed with the protesters and kept pushing them back. And the girl looked and said, you guys gave us an excellent view of policing here.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have somebody who came to disrupt, meaning the white guy who comes in there and finger points the guys and in the faces of the protesters, while the cops surrounded the protesters and the guy was just left alone.
Right.
The guy who created the problem was left alone. And right then and there, it reminds me of something I told my daughter. I tell people over here all of the time. I'm a professional guy. I do my work. I don't create problems or anything like that. And to date, I don't call the police. I'd stay as far away from cops as possible. Bruce, my buddy, I call him my white brother from another mother. He, when we drive together, he for a long time didn't understand my angst, right? Because I remember we were driving and he's waving at the cops in a motorcycle next to us. And I'm like, I tried at least to draw attention to any of these guys and the reason why is a lot of folks call cops and they may be having an altercation and they become the victims of the cops because of preconceived notions the cop has as to who has the right to have policing. And that you have to watch the video in real time of what occurred in there to see how policing works in this country. The privilege of some with police, no matter who is the one committing the crime. Go ahead.
I agree with others. So this isn't pushback to that, but I think there's a point that I always like to make in that everything you're saying is I'm certain correct as you relate your experiences, and I'm certain that's correct. At the same time, not as a pushback, as we get closer to these authoritarian outcomes, they'll police everyone back. Like you saw with Occupy Wall Street,
right.
Vietnam War protesters. So it doesn't detract from the story to highlight the the Seattle Police Department just came out of 13 years of supervision, right? Because now we live in the Trump era.
Right.
But it's also important to remember when we come down, when martial law is declared, or if a protest movement is seen as in really messing with economic order, they'll come for everyone. And you've seen that in the past. So it's important to understand that if you're messing with their money, they'll come for you.
Neil, that's not a pushback. That's a reality, brother.
Yeah.
That's a reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave a segmented issue, but when it comes to affecting capital or business, everybody becomes, what?
It's like if you're old enough, on Star Trek: The Next Generation with the Borg, You got to remember the Borg would come in a similar. You could beam on. This is how police are like. They were staged at Dillard's on Monday morning. They had about 30. They had about 45 or 50 cops at Dillard's. They had 20 horses, and I walked over, and they had everything. They were staging, and I walked over to Dillard's. It was about 3 blocks, and I just walked right up, started taking pictures. I just walked right up. They didn't care, right? Because what am I going to do?
Right. And
they didn't care. So I'm dating myself, but you could beam onto the Borg ship. The Borg didn't care. They were so powerful. They didn't. I'm not saying we can't. That the police are so powerful that our rights are gone. But the minute you started messing with the wires on the Borg ship, or the minute you got near the control room,
yes,
they'd wake up and they'd start zapping Worf and Dr. Crusher, and all that. And that's how HPD is. They're, everything's fine. They're not threatened by you. You're not messing with money. Oh, hi, sure, we're here to protect you. But the minute you look towards the Galleria, or look towards going on 610, the Borg are out. The Borg are out, and they're so outfitted now with helmets and thick packets and whatever they got in all there. They're kind of Borg-like, increasingly.
Yeah, we got to be very careful in how we proceed going forward. It looks like Donald is on the line. Good morning, Donald. How are you doing, my brother?
Hey, good morning. On your TikTok video, isn't that guy practicing his power of freedom of speech as well as the protesters?
Yes, he is. But let me give the little what. That's why I said I wish I had saved the video. He came into their spaces and point the fingers and back them up. In other words, his free speech doesn't include putting his finger into people's faces, walking up to them, having them retreat. In other words, he was in their spaces. In other words, he was confronting them. In other words, instead of standing their ground as he's pointing their finger in their face, they're backing up to prevent him from touching them. If they had stayed put, he would have had touched them, right? And the idea, Donald, is that when the cops came in and separated them, they treated the protesters as the aggressor and the other guy just walking behind. They had no police presence for him. And that's what I'm talking about. Anything else, brother?
Well, that's the way it works. It's just like going by the Galleria. Those people are there to spend their money because they have money. If you don't have money because you're protesting, they have to. Well, that's just the way it works. They don't want you going on the freeway because in Texas we'll run you over.
Neil want to answer you. Go ahead, Neil.
Well, let me just say there's a lot of material there. I will say with Donald, with what police are trained to de-escalate. I'd like to see the video. Police are trained in these circumstances, and they will tell you to de-escalate conflict. That doesn't mean they're sympathetic to the protesters, but a little bit of probably what they were doing was de-escalating it. I don't know that that the protesters didn't have money. Frequently, when I protested Senator Cornyn's office, they yell one of two things: who's paying you or get a job. So I wish that people would determine it, what it is. And no one was planning to go on the freeway. That's the thing. And I wish that the city of Houston would protect democracy as aggressively as it protects the Galleria and 610. And then also, lastly, that we run you over. The idea that the penalty for protesting on a freeway should be death or maiming, I'd have to object to that this morning.
Hey, guess what, guys? My lines are just zoomed up. So, hey, Donald, thank you, my brother. Got to go to Randy, okay?
Going on the freeway and you're standing on the train track.
Well, no one did it, sir. No one did it, sir.
No, nobody did that, Donald. Hey, Donald, we'll talk another day, brother. Thank you for calling in, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to brother Randy. Come on in, Randy.
Hello there.
How you doing, sir?
I actually have three things that are sort of quick that I want to talk about this morning.
Yes, sir. Real quick, though.
I guess I'll do them in reverse order real quick. Is remember that when there was a protest down in the area close to downtown, and the group did take over the freeway. And that has also happened in Austin, where they were. So that makes them sort of worry about that when certain groups are in play.
Well, let me say this very briefly. I think there was a brief moment during the George Floyd protest. Maybe that's you're referencing that you're taking over the freeway. But I would just say, as a Houston driver, that our freeways are every day taken over by aggression and people violating every rule in the world. And so they are selective on what uses of the freeway that they're hyper on.
I also want to say is that the idea behind protests and protesters are willing to go get their misdemeanor when they do certain things is to create disruption. I mean, protest without disruption is ineffective. Okay. Protest without disruption is ineffective. When we went to St. Louis with the Netroots Nation, we actually shut down the freeway at the center. We marched with Black Lives Matter and shut down the freeway because there was something that we wanted to draw attention to, and people were willing to go to jail for that.
But I want to define disruption a little wider, because I think there's tremendous value for people seeing others like themselves willing to protest. To get back to what we said this morning about, if you're in Clear Lake, and the person 5 doors down, it's important people know others.
Right.
Others support them, and so disruption. I want to define it widely. That it involves something different than what is normal.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the only way protest works. If protest was just a nice thing, we wouldn't have the civil rights. We wouldn't have women's rights. We wouldn't have gay rights. None of those things would have happened without protest. All right, Randy, give me your other two real quick, because I'm running out of time.
Okay. The second one was that the housing where the HUD housing that's currently in place is being taken away and being moved out. People are being moved out, and then they're supposed to be moved back in. And the HUD qualifications for living in the new housing are changing on them, and I'm not quite sure how to find out exactly what's going on there.
Well, you gave us some work to do, Randy. What's the first one, my brother?
The first one is back to the language, and I identify myself as a person with a heritage that has some dark color in the back of it, even though I look very white.
Okay, my white brother.
And well, you call me white, and I don't identify that way.
I'm messing with you, man. You know I'm messing with you, Randy. Come on. So anyway, Tuesday I ordered delivery from a service to get some groceries out to the house, and the service stopped me at 15, so I got my 15, and the person came, and they came to the gate, and I went out and got it, and I said, "Can you tell me how do I get to the part of the app where I can order more than 15 at one time?" And the person, a female, could not understand what I was asking. Oh boy!
You had enough English to tell me you have 14 items, and they're all there.
I know. And, Randy, we got to go, Randy. Thank you, my brother. We'll talk another time, okay?
Let me go another time real quick. I walked in behind a guy at a taco place, and he ordered rojo good grief, rojo y verde, and it was delivered. It was served to him quickly and no problem. I stepped up and ordered rojo y verde, and they said, "Oh, that's only on the breakfast menu. We don't serve it for lunch." And I said, "There's a lunch rojo y verde," and they said, "Oh, okay." And it was the same server, and I thought I ordered the same thing, but apparently I just don't say it right.
Okay. All right, brother. We'll talk later. Thank you, Brandy. Good one. Let's go to Steve. I'm going to have to speed it up a little bit because all lines are full. Come on in, Steve.
Hey, morning, brother Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Been a while. Two things, if I can squeeze them in. One, I've got a nephew. He's in the National Guard. He's trying to go through flight school and become a pilot. But his home state is North Carolina. He was in school in Louisiana, but he's going to be in Texas training for 6 weeks, and then he's going to be deported in about a month and a half to Uganda. So our National Guard is going to Uganda, and I guess it happened before, but it's just kind of strange to me.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And you know why they're going to Uganda. So.
Of course, they're building our jails at private money in Uganda to put some of the foreigners that are being deported out of here. Of course, yeah.
Right. And then my other thing is, Neil might like it. Do you remember that sitcom show back in the day? It was called Welcome Back, Kotter.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Okay, so our beloved President Donald Trump had a favorite character on that show, and it wasn't like Johnny's favorite character might be Horshack. A lot of people have Vinnie Barbarino, like John Travolta, but Trump's favorite character was, you'd probably guess it, Epstein.
Whoa. Didn't know that. All right, Steve. Steve, we got to go, but that's a good one. Thank you, Steve.
Very good.
Have a good one, my brother. All right, let's go to, let's see, line 6. Richard. Come on in, Richard.
It's Richard.
Richard, you're on. Okay, let's put Richard on hold. Let's go line 5. Johnny. Line 5. There you go. Johnny, you're on.
I heard you. RFK Jr., he has the magical ability to look at someone without any medical testing and without a medical degree or training, determine that they are in this kind of state. That reminds me of your first caller. Without even being there, he can, over time, remotely, based on a radio report, determine that all those people that showed up on or near the Galleria, that they're all homeless. Because obviously they didn't have money to spend in the Galleria, and the cops are there to protect those who've got money to spend. The one-sidedness is so revealing, and after all this time, you would think this individual would not have an instinct to immediately come to the defense of money. The whole idea of what K50 does is to enlighten people, to bring new processes to them, to have them say to themselves, maybe I was wrong about this. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. And so far, I feel like we're failing in that regard with that individual. I hope that individual realizes that it's not the right of people who show up at the gallery to spend their money because everybody else is homeless. All those people have jobs and families. They are angry, righteously so, and they should be respected instead of corralled like they're the problem. The guy pointing the fingers, he's the one that should have been separated and not pushed back, instead of the others.
Let me just say one thing. Some of our callers are a lot of times, and I kind of discern when it is, are tongue in cheek to force me to go ahead and expand that. In other words, when it was brought up that did that guy have the right to free speech as well? Hey, it would have been good for me to also have said, while he had the right for free speech, he has to, he was going beyond free speech, what this other person was doing. So I clarified that he was going beyond what the guy with free speech was doing. So what I'm saying is, I try to when I'm looking at things. And by the way, Johnny, I think all of us, you included, are doing a good job in highlighting and enlightening the people that are listening to us, right? Because again, just the conversation alone tickle people's thinking juices. So I mean, I love all the callers, and I want these callers to keep calling in and pushing, because that is how we enlighten ourselves. Continue, my brother.
So, in other words, you're saying all rights are not unlimited, and with regards to free speech rights, we don't get to go to a movie theater on a crowded movie theater on a Friday night That's not your free speech rights. That's common sense.
There you go, brother. And we need to make that clear. Thank you, Johnny. As usual, good information. Let's see if Richard is back, and then we're going to go to John. Richard, are you there? Okay, we can drop that line then. Let's go to John. Come on in, John.
Yeah, I wanted to say, here in Minneapolis, when George Floyd demonstrations were going on, there were several things going on. Proud Boys came and they did acts of vandalism. They encouraged arson. So that's one fact that, is going on here, with that. And then also the police themselves, they stabbed the tires of probably about 30 journalists, and then they took out the eye of a journalist from Toronto, a photojournalist.
I remember.
So, the police have a really bad record, and of course, the worst record was the killing of George Floyd for, passing whatever, a $20 bill that was not, it may have been counterfeit. So they decided that they were going to be the judge and the jury of that and dispatch him to the next life. We need to have the kind of policing that goes on in Norway or something, or Sweden or something like that, where they are, educated people. They aren't going to victimize the victims. And until we get to that, I just don't understand that. And then also, protecting money, as if money, people that have money have rights and the rest of us do not. And,
exactly.
I'm a middle class person still. I understand that. Anyway, that's all. Yeah.
Thank you very much, John. As usual, great commentary. And Joe from Los Angeles, California says, Egberto, you should hear me because I get mad at them. I hear you, girl. I hear you. I really do. Look, yesterday, a friend of mine called me up. He is documented, but his son is not documented. He called me up and he said they grabbed his son in Dallas. So I'm putting out a call here. He asked me to find out what are the next steps that he can take with organizations, etc. So if anybody out there who's working con la migra, lo que sea, me pueden ayudar, me pueden mandar, can drop me a line at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. I want to start arming our website with helpful information from groups that are running. I know a lot of the groups are kind of quiet in the way they work. I think by now you guys know that this stuff we can be trusted. So I'd love for folks to send me an email at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. A friend, and I know this isn't the only one, who called me yesterday in tears. His son was picked up by ICE. He has his papers. His son doesn't have their papers, and it's a long story. So drop me a line, anybody who has some pertinent information. All right, let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, this goes out to Howard. He can check this. All he has to do is punch in Chinese transformer kill switch. You had 2 callers yesterday that said that the solar panel farm that was shut down, that was due to a national security risk. That's all that was. He doesn't hate the.
Okay, let me tell you what the lie is, brother. Listen to this, and I hope you'd listen well, because there's a whole lot of myth as far as what.
Thank you for cutting me off in 30 seconds.
I will. Yeah, because what happened is you pretty much told a lie for Donald Trump. Let me give you some science, okay? Nobody can control a solar panel unless that solar panel is put on a system that's controllable. In other words, a solar panel does not have an antenna to receive a remote signal. Anytime,
You're going to keep up until you make your point, and then you're going to come
no.
hang up.
What I'm trying to tell you here is educate yourself.
Howard, look up Chinese transformer kill
brother, I don't care if you look up transformer kill switch. It is impossible if you don't have your system online for it to be controllable. Okay? Listen to what I'm saying and educate yourself, sir. I write software. I write SCADA. You cannot do it. All right. So this stuff that they talk about, kill switch and controlling water plants and all this kind of stuff, these can only occur if these guys are on a system that is accessible. Only occur if you are on a system that is accessible. So when you watch all these commercials about this thing is infiltrated, a telephone system on a cellular network can be controlled because it's on a network that's accessible. If I have a closed system, if I buy a solar panel, I don't care from where, and that system is not on a network that's accessible, there's no kill switch. I mean, we have to start, again, thinking. Go ahead, Neil.
I want to, Brian, you need to bust out your wallet. CNN report, as at the end of July, electricity prices had surged 5.5% over the prior 12 months, twice the pace of inflation. So rather than worried about that, Brian, worry about Trump's failed promise to cut electricity prices. On the campaign trail last summer, President Trump promised to swiftly cut electricity and energy prices. So I want your focus, Brian, to shift on Trump's failed promise, and he's bankrupting you.
It is amazing. You know, what is disconcerting is when they make silly statements. Oh, there's a kill switch and they can control. Look, right. It is so important for
while they're robbing you blind.
While they're robbing you blind. And the thing about it, what's so important is the following, and this for the general audience that listen to, okay? Can you have kill switches and that kind of stuff? Yes. Can let's say an electric car from China have some sort of a kill switch? Well, if it is, let me give some examples, okay, of how things can happen. Let's say you have a car, and your car has an FM radio, right? Even though that car is not on a network, because it has an FM radio that you may turn on, a kill switch could be that it has software that when the radio is getting a signal from your FM signal, that somebody puts in a tone that a reader within the radio causes to do something to a computer system. That's possible, right? But the data flow on a solar panel is sunlight, go into a photocell, turn into DC current, goes into the thing that converts it to AC current, and then goes into a system. There is no pathway for any externality to create some kill switch, if you will. I can give a technology that could do it. Let's say they did a sort of a Morse code with light. But again, that is impractical. So when they talk about kill switches and all of that, listen and understand what the capability really is, and don't allow them to screw you by telling you these guys are going to do something that they don't have the technical capability or the physical technical capability to occur. And it drives me crazy that they depend on our ignorance to have us fear things. Anyway, we're coming. What else do we have up, Neil? We got about 3 more minutes.
They had at City Council yesterday, council members get a brief time to speak about whatever they want. And the chair of the Finance Committee, Sally Alcorn, gave a 5-minute admonishment to Mayor Whitmire that the city's finances are untenable. So if you see a debate about a garbage fee or a tax increase, remember that we have the revenue cap. We're inhibited by the state from raising revenue. And Sally Alcorn, kind of a moderate Democrat, if you see those debates, you see something in the paper, hear something on the radio, the city is near broke, and the police and fire contracts have really gutted us. And that gets back to the incredible amounts of police overtime that we're paying, and the Chronicle detailed that. But if you hear a debate about our city finances, tune into that a little bit. It really is. It is a problem.
You know, it is amazing. It is amazing, but we've got to smarten up, Neil. All right, before I'm going to give you a closer at the end. Let's go to the studio to see if the studio has something to say, and then we'll close out with you telling us about Houston Democracy Project. Go ahead, studio.
No, y'all go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay, great. Neil, tell us what's happening, what's going to be going on, etc.
So, HoustonDemocracyProject.com, Houston Democracy Project, that's me. And there is on the website a calendar, a grassroots freedom calendar. And there are events all across the area. There is a protest today, actually, about Dan Krent. There's a weekly protest in Kingwood, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock at the intersection of Kingwood and Green Oak. They do Indivisible Kingwood. It's a great group. Bring your sign or pick one up there. And if you go to my website, there's parking information. And again, the next action is when you organize it, and the First Amendment is your permit.
Thank you very much for that. I think I may drive out there and get a couple of interviews. These women have been dedicated, not only women and men. Women. It's mostly all women, but they have been
step up.
Yes, they've been dedicated with the Crenshaw rally every Thursday. I think that is sort of a mimic off of what you are doing with which is very, very, I'm proud of what you're doing out there. Anyway, folks, I want to tell you guys, thank you so kindly for listening. Thank you so kindly for being here. And look, I want everybody to call in. I want everybody to feel free to say whatever you want to say. This is an open forum. Look, I'm going to push back when I hear something that I think is silly. And just like you hear Johnny call and he pushes back, Neil pushes back. That's how we get good communication, right? And nobody has to have their feelings on their shoulders. Let's just get it right. That is what it's all about. Let's just get it right. Anyway, folks, love you all. You can get the rest of the program at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. And you can write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. I want to thank Neil from the Houston Democracy Project. Remember to go to HoustonDemocracyProject.com. Thank you for being here every Thursday, Neil. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet